This is the top 5 meta loadouts in Warzone and Rebirth Island. All these loadouts are really easy to use, don't take much effort, and honestly, you're going to absolutely shred. So I want to start out with the static HV and move on to the DTIR as the absolute meta in Warzone. For the static HV, throw on the quartermaster suppressor. This keeps you off the mini-map and it helps with gun kick control and recoil control. Honestly, there's nothing that can compete with it if you look at all these other ones. The Jack BFB, you lose bullet velocity. Sonic suppressor, your recoil accuracy goes down. Zemin, bullet velocity goes down. The quartermaster is the only thing that really competes. Now, it helps with 23% horizontal recoil, 10% vertical recoil, and 10% recoil gun kick. The handling reduction really isn't a big deal. If you don't have this, then my best bet for you would either be to put on the Zemin 35 and bite that 5% reduction of bullet velocity, or put on one of these L4 flash hider, Spiral V 3.5 flash hider. The ADS speed goes down significantly with the Spiral and the L4R, but honestly, these things would be the better alternative if you don't want to lose bullet velocity. Throw on the Holger 840 light barrel for aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and hip fire and attack stand spread at the cost of recoil control and gun kick control. The mobility and handling increase are just so massive, and because we already took care of the recoil with the previous attachment, it's okay to lose some recoil control with this one. Now, if you don't want to use that and you don't care too much about movement, you can put on the Garrett 8 long barrel for more effective and minimum damage range and bullet velocity. It's definitely helpful to have this on there, but completely your choice, whichever one you want. On the Jack Slash for movement speed, sprint speed, and vertical recoil cost of hip fire spread and attack stance spread. This is really amazing for mobility and recoil control. If you don't want to use this, you can use the paracord grip. It helps with horizontal recoil 15%. It also helps with mobility and handling as well. Whatever one you want, completely up to you. Next, I put on the Niter model 2023. This is my personal preference. There's no cons to it whatsoever. I see a lot of people using the Jack Glasses Optic, but there is a con of a 3% reduction of ADS speed. That's why I like the Niter model 2023 better. Finally, I put on the SPRY 34 light stock for the aim, walking speed, sprint speed, movement speed, and aim down sight speed at the cost of aiming out sway, firing aim stability, and gun kick control. This is absolutely amazing for mobility and handling, and you only lose 8% recoil gun kick. This weapon is incredibly easy to use. For somebody that has his first game on, I haven't even touched this game yet. This is literally the first time I've touched this game today. It's very easy to control this weapon, even at long range. So if you guys want to use this long range, you'll be able to use this, and it'll be very easy. But here's the entire class setup. Take a picture, screenshot, whatever you guys have to do. Next is the DTIR 3006. This thing is incredible, absolutely meta, and technically the best long range weapon in the game. Throwing the quartermaster suppressor keeps you off the minimap with gun kick control and recoil control. This actually helps with 11% recoil gun kick instead of 10% for the previous attachment. It's pretty interesting, the little bit of a difference. Next, put on the Extend 10 long barrel for bullet velocity and range, damage range, and movement speed. This is the best attachment. Unless you can't control the recoil, and then you can put on the Sanctum 60 long barrel. There's not really any recoil with this weapon though. I think it's very worth it to have a 20% increase of range overall for effective minimum and bullet velocity, and the mobility goes up a little bit. You're trading that for a 15% increase across the board for range and 15% recoil gun kick, 10% for horizontal and vertical recoil control, and then you lose mobility and handling significantly. So whichever one you want, completely up to you. Jack Glasses Optic is pretty nice, but I actually prefer the Koryo Eagle's Eye 2.5 times. Technically, this is meta, but this is what I like to use. Rifleman 200 stock for recoil control, aiming out sway, and gun kick control at the cost of aim down sight speed, sprint to fire speed, and movement speed. So you technically do lose some of that mobility and handling increase you had earlier, but it balances out. Finally, the 40 round mag, just have as many bullets as possible. When you use this, you'll see just how easy this thing is. It takes no effort to actually use this weapon. It just does massive damage at basically any single range. And the beautiful thing about it is it doesn't really take much effort to use. Like I said, I'm barely even holding my thumbstick down and there's basically no recoil. So take a picture, screenshot, whatever you guys have to do. Please use this setup because it's super easy. But if the DTIR is not up your avenue, here is the Holger 556. It recently got buffed and it's super meta this season. Throwing the quartermaster suppressor keeps you off the minimap, gun kick control, and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. Once again, you get the increase of 11% for recoil gun kick instead of 10%. So this is very much ideal. 23% and 10%. They're on the Cheerios 6 match for bullet velocity and range, recoil control, and gun kick control at the cost of aim down sight speed, aiming out sway, and sprint to fire speed. 20% increase for effective and minimum damage range, 11% increase for bullet velocity, which is amazing. And you get some recoil control increases, 4%, 8%, and 7% across the board. For me, the Broom Pivot vertical grip was the best choice for the Holger. I'm not sure why this one in particular versus the Brune Heavy, but this does a much better job at recoil control. So gun kick control, vertical recoil, aiming out sway, and firing aim stability at the cost of recoil control, horizontal, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed. speed, 60% increase on recoil gun kick, 12% increase on vertical, 4% decrease on horizontal. 40 round mag for as many bullets as possible. And this I chose the Jack Glasses optic, but you can use the Coil Eagle's Eye if you want to. This weapon is incredibly powerful at basically every single range, and I'll be honest with you, I've been using this a whole lot more than the DTIR recently. Like, I've actually been having a whole lot of fun using this. First of all, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit of a meta shift, and there's basically no recoil on this weapon. So take a picture, screenshot, whatever you guys have to do. The Striker has absolutely no recoil, and it's technically, I would say, the best overall SMG in the game. Like, I won't say it's best TTK wise, but overall you can use this short, medium, and long range and dominate. Throwing the quartermaster suppressor keeps you off the minimap, gun kick control, and recoil control, 10%, 23%, and 10%. Then put on the Striker Recon long barrel for bullet velocity and range, aiming out of its way at the cost of hip fire and tack stance spread, sprint to fire speed, and aim walking speed. You get an increase of 18% for effective and minimum damage range, and 15% increase for bullet velocity. The decreases you get don't really matter that much, trust me, because next you're going to put on the XRK Edge BW for hand stop for aim walking speed, movement speed, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed. You lose aim walking steadiness, hip fire attack stance spread, but the increase of mobility and handling are so significant that you cannot ignore this. Look for that 6% increase of movement speed. The ADS movement speed is 13%, ADS speed 6%, sprint to fire speed 5%. It's just so useful. 48 round mag, just because with 60 you basically get double the cons. I just don't think that's worth it. 48 is more than enough, especially because this doesn't shoot very fast. Finally, I put on the Lockman Recon Series stock for gun kick control, aiming out sway, and recoil control at the cost of hip fire attack stance spread, sprint to fire speed, aim walking speed, and movement speed. 25% for recoil gun kick, absolutely insane. 5% for horizontal and vertical recoil, and you'll see how crazy this is in the firing range. So you guys see in the firing range, this thing literally does not move. It does not take any effort to actually use this weapon. I would say it's actually more dangerous than most of the ARs, just because as an SMG, to actually have the amount of range, bullet velocity, and low recoil, this is one of the most lethal weapons you can use in the game. So make sure you use this weapon, take a picture, screenshot, what you guys have to do. Finally, the Pulemyot 762. I actually absolutely love using this weapon as an alternative to the DTIR, or the Holger 5.56 has a ton of ammo and basically has no recoil. Throw on the quartermaster suppressor to keep you off the minimap, gun control, and recoil control. Helps with 11% recoil gun kick, 23% horizontal recoil, and 10% vertical recoil. Next, put on the ST Pyro heavy barrel for bullet velocity and range, recoil control, aiming out sway, and gun kick control with the cost of sprint to fire speed, movement speed, and sprint speed. Doesn't really matter that much. You get a 24% increase of effective and minimum damage range, and 13% increase for bullet velocity. You also get some help with recoil control, 4% recoil gun kick, and 6% for horizontal and vertical. Broom pivot vertical grip again for gun kick control, vertical recoil, aiming out sway, and firing aim stability at the cost of horizontal recoil, aim down sight speed, and sprint to fire speed. This is very necessary. Make sure you have this on there. Jack Glasses optic is my choice, just because with Coil Eagle's Eye there's a little bit more recoil, but with this there's absolutely none. Finally, we're putting on the Ivanov Woodstock for gun kick control and recoil control and firing aim stability at the cost of sprint to fire speed, hip fire attack stance spread, sprint speed, and tactical sprint speed. 21% for recoil gun kick and 4% for horizontal and vertical recoil. This thing is absolutely devastating. Like, it literally does not move. This is something you definitely want to have on, especially if you don't have the DTIR or the Holger leveled up. This thing is absolutely insane. It takes very little effort to actually use this weapon. As you guys see, I already took out 2 targets and still have 40 bullets, so this is something you definitely want to have in your arsenal. Take a picture, screenshot, whatever you guys have to do, because this weapon is insane.